So it's not perfect, but it stays put. It's rigged. Oh my gosh. And I made it, I even made it on time too. So not quite the way I want it, but let's see. Yeah, that's how I wanted it. Something like that. I think. Yeah, something more like that. Okay. So I'm back in for another hour. I know that I'm supposed to be here for 3 hours, but my goodness, my 3 hour vibration, I know why it starts so early. Because when it's early, that's okay, 3 hours. Because the first hour is me getting ready, um, working with some calls, things like that. But I think it's more like 3 hours per stream. I think that's the way it goes for me. This early in the start, 3 hours is where I think people like start. It's like people will come in and visit and then get comfortable, and I'm using about an hour in. So yeah, I gotta work that out. So I'm still trying to figure out like the timings, like best times for me to go live, which so it seems like I don't know, honestly, because as I'm checking analytics, it's like people are just moving in and out. Like they're just coming in and out as they so please. So who knows? Maybe this is 24 hours. I would like to think that, but then I like to also imagine that that'd be unrealistic as it should be for me just to come in and then it's like, people that like knew that was gonna go live. So I'm having a little bit of a thing going on there. I need to figure out like I know how to schedule, but I need to figure out like the best time to schedule. Even though I'm gonna be honest, I do like mornings. I'm thinking about needing to keep the mornings going because yes, people do turn up. They do come in throughout the middle of the day. Of course, I can imagine like, why are you online in the middle of the day? Because this, especially this is beautiful weather, great season, and I know I know why I'm doing it. I'm doing it because I have one more hour left. So that now I get it. Okay, I should be coming on when people are available. Like this is a time of life, so I would say I'm psychically picking up like evening. But I know I'm gonna get to a place where if I come on in like around these times, I know there will be people who will someday come in around this time as I do. But I'm thinking in my brain, I have to maybe morning and evenings. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. So it's very early. This is new. I'm still in a very new space. So I needed to see, well, how does like the different time frames happen? Like morning, a- afternoon. You'll only have one more hour to be online. So, I mean, when I get to be off work offline, so then I can unplug. And I already had a premonition that um, if I didn't go live now at or around 1 o'clock, that I wasn't gonna go live at after 2 o'clock because I'm gonna be like rested. I mean, like another day. So yeah, I had a pretty active day. My energy's up. I'm fine. It's just my interests, are a little bit elsewhere. Oh yeah, what was I gonna? Oh yes. Where do I get my psychic answers? That's what I'm supposed to be talking about. My bad. Oh, and I figured out how to properly upload a beautiful thumbnail. I love doing my thumbnails. Um, yeah, it's a bit tricky because I have to get the thumbnail to my phone since I like to go live on my phone and upload the thumbnail to my phone because if I upload if I upload it through the computer, like it just goes away whenever I go live on the phone, and then I have to like re-upload. I had to re-upload the photo, and I even saved it from my PC. So yeah, I know that's not a go. And I kind of like this way because it got me back to editing thumbnails. I'm talking about a thumbnail, excuse me. So yeah, so it's more like, how do I do it? I like to take the picture from my phone, send it through the PC, edit it, send it back to my phone, and then it's great. and and yeah, so as I you know go through the process, I will share like what happened. We will what they call have it all recorded. We're recording our successes. All right. On the flip side, I'm watching a pretty good trilogy. I'm not really into shows, but this one's a bit star-studded, and it's a pretty good actors too. And uh, it's um, it's a bit on the sci-fi side with the whole zombie thing. I think it's called like, I don't know if it's G Nation or Zombie Nation, but it's pretty cool, you know. And yeah, so it's like they're traveling all over the U.S. and they're trying to get to California. I don't know the name of it, but I kind of like it. It's pretty nice. They are right now. They're sort of it's like they've run out of water and they're just close to being hamburgers, and they're having to transport someone who before the zombies broke in, they had a medical team working on like trying some kind of like trial serums, and they needed I guess a person who could take it, and then so there's a guy, and it's like I think he's little by little turning into a zombie because he's taking on the appearance, and also the mannerisms. So he's already like he also yeah he's already attacked a stranger, and he was his behavior was very zombie like, and he also likes this like his character is a bit of a nobody and being bossed around, and he doesn't like to stand for anything, and so now his character is beginning to find meaning because he's like it's like, oh, the zombies, they don't attack him anymore. They attacked him the first time. That's how he discovered that he's now immune to the attack. And the whole principle of the whole thing is that they're trying to find I guess like a maybe like a cure or something. Um, and I don't know any of these characters' names. I don't know the actors' names, but I understand the story. And basically, and like and what's so interesting about the show, who you thought would survive doesn't survive. And the ones you're like, surely they're gonna get knocked off. And it's like opposite. Yeah, so I like little twists like that. Um, so it's not like the NPC, it's like literally the actual heroes. And it's like, then what is the hero then in this reality? Uh, and well, anyway, he's like since he can kind of maneuver, he's also developed some sort of a like a im, im, like a symbiote. Yeah, it's just like symbiotic, definitely, but more like an empathic connection with the zombies. Like if he lifts his arm, like they mimic him and they look at him in awe as well, and they seem to be even following him. And like they're moving in herds in the same direction in which they do follow him, and there seems to be like their mannerisms. It seems like they're like reaching out for him as he's like is departing, and he has even convinced his team not to, because usually when they the moment on site they they eradicate, and he talked this entire team from they've seen loved ones taken out by and they fall in a couple of like fall in love, and she's you know they have like a code like to take them out because it's like it's a form of mercy or something they call it. Yeah, it's a pretty good show. I like it. So I'm like watching it, and I just wanted. I'm already like in my brain. I'm already like, okay, what's gonna happen when they get there? Like, are they gonna zombie out? Or are they gonna have to? Or like, is this dude that's slowly becoming like supposed to be the cure, or carrying the cure in his blood? Is he gonna like zombie out and be like now he can convince all the other zombies like we're zombie nation over here, zombie nation. Let's I don't know, I don't know, but yeah, it's an interesting storyline. But yeah, what why did I come in here for? Oh yes, psychic answers. I got distracted. I started just talking. So how how do I get my psychic answers? That okay, so clients ask me that a lot. Like, okay, when I call, they're like, how do you do this? Like when I call you earlier, I mentioned in other streams, people have said, since I've talked with you, I feel like I'm in a movie. So, and I've heard many people say that. I've heard that before, and so I had to write it down. I said, you know what? I'm gonna remember this as a. This feels like a what do you call it? Um, like a testimony. So I wrote it down. This is a personal testimony to me. Like the client said this to me. They didn't like give it to the company. They gave it to me. So yeah, it feels good. And see, okay, so when I connect, it's like I'm no longer formulating my thoughts, and so whatever comes through, I say it, and even this. I'm okay. I had to concentrate for this one. I had to like consciously become aware that this is a thing. So there are like these subtle pieces of information. I've even learned to acknowledge the subtleties of information. So, if I'm talking, I'm like going away, and then I hear a precious time. I don't know why I thought of precious time. I'll say the guides want me to acknowledge a precious time, and then I start to see where does this bit of information fit, and then it just plugs in. So I can tell that I just start picking up like pieces of information, and then it gets put into order. Like I put it into order. I have the ability to solve it like a puzzle. And esoteric symbols, if it's a symbol, if it's like a visual, but then it starts to become words like in my mind, and sometimes even like the bit of the like somebody's like blowing on my ear around my ears, where I'm hearing like pieces of information, and then I'm tallying it all up, and as I'm describing, I'm also telling a story. And then when they begin to talk, I'm 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 an expert at multitasking, and then I'm doing other readings. And so I'm like marking spaces. So when they pass on the baton back to me, I say, yes, and I can follow up with, or this is a great place to segue, or I'm very happy that you brought that up because I just looked at this because I'm multitasking, so I would have leaped ahead. I would have seen information. I know what they're going to say next, or where the conversation's heading, and so I was able, yeah, I'm able to do that. And so I think that now, so this was not whether or not like does psychics get their answers from familiar spirits. No, 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 no. This is more like, no, genuinely, where do psychics get, like, where does psychic answers come from? Not where do psychics get their answers. I get this. I believe it comes from around you, and it doesn't matter if the person is directly or physically around you. I get the sense that the way it works, at least in the when, as I'm actually reading people from who are residing in other countries, since they're not. Of course, I'm not physically near them, and they're not physically near me. I don't know where they are. They don't know where I am. Um, so I would imagine what I'm saying here is that it doesn't really matter where the where the person where they are. That information is closer to you than you think, and that information moves through your energy as though they are just an arm's length away. So that's how I view it. I think of it like that. That's the way I think of it. And as the information is like around me, I'm just channeling that information. So I'm not even denying any of it. Now sometimes I get information because it's on the darker side. I'm like, how do I say? Because I like to sort of discipline myself to say the exact words, and so when I do, they're like it's like they know what that is. But sometimes I'm like, can I make it smoother? Like if it's a tough one to speak about, I always prepare them first, like mentally, emotionally, like I'm okay, this part's a little on the deep side, or this part's a little deep, or this one I'm about to say if it's a little bit dark, but it's useful and it is relevant. And then I will, say it kindly. You know, say it in a way that in my voice tone where it's not, where they don't feel that it's targeting anybody or anybody who they're maybe wanting read, who they may like. So I'm very careful in how I how I deliver the information, but I will try my very best to say the words, the exact words that I see, because for me it's a discipline to go to the information that's actually there. So without me wondering, is this the right information? I don't want to retrain myself to look for not so credible information because I know the information that I'm connected to is 100% correct, and that when I say it, that person, because that's the only feedback I've received, like when I say it, they're going to respond in a conversational manner, and we're just going to continue, our journey together. So that's where I think the psychic answers come from. I believe it just comes from around you. I believe it comes from the connection in which you forge in any form of manner, in the way that communication, the message can flow through, whether it's through the channels of like a video live stream, or like if you're messaging each other, if you're writing letters to each other, if it's by phone, obviously, etc. Though in those formats. Um, so if that's the case, this means that I mean, you can look at it as like energy and light, but I like to think of it as people's concerns can also channel, like thoughts can travel, along light or along, we say energy. Um, and sometimes people think of like they'll think, um, like light and sound. And then I just began like connecting with sound. And so when I began looking at this, I was thinking about, like, okay, there's sound. That's you can, scientific world, you can be hooked up, and your mind, can actually, like they have devices, electronic sort of devices that it allows you to move, like, or you can learn and be conditioned to move your, um, I guess, your wave, the current consciousness wave, to different levels of mind thought. And in fact, I met this gentleman, and he had a device, and you put so it had a wire that ran from it, and then it, ran on batteries, and it had these little sort of like little finger bands, and you place them on either finger band. On I used to put them in like where the ring fingers, and then you just relax, and it um, it would kind of buzz you. Not it was yeah, it would kind of buzz you a bit, like if you were becoming like uh if you're becoming less peaceful, like if stress, or if you started elevating in your energy, or your the activity of your mind, it would buzz you. Oh, and I believe it also had like little headsets, I believe. Did it have headsets? Or maybe I'm imagining that. I might be imagining the headset part, but 100% I remember wearing them. And he was like, no, they don't hurt. It's just like a little, like a vibrate, it's more like felt like a vibration. And so I kind of had the opportunity to sort of kind of put together a very generic little, like a lab, to where I could begin working more with my mind. Like this, essentially what the device is used for is to basically like go more into the alpha state. But because I'd read so many books on like other waves other than like close to sleep realm, I was interested in, well, what if you do the polar opposite? And you try to strive for these. I know it's going to buzz you, but what if you strive for it? So yeah, so I had the chance to experiment with it. My conclusion was it's interesting. Um, I don't think that it is effective. I don't think it's a very effective, but it was an interesting, good attempt to, on your own. You've got this device. You could study it a little bit, and, play with it like I did, kind of run some of your own tests. So I did enjoy that feature because it opened up, like every time that I step away from anything mysterious, it always finds me. I went there just to visit. It was not to I don't even think I was looking to be psychic. I was just there visiting, and lo and behold, something mystery happens. So everywhere I go, any new places I visit, I always look for whatever, or something that's going to stand out, that is on the more on the mystical side, or on the weird side, or that side that is like, it's embracing some aspect of paranormal. And I've traveled and interacted with so many people, And just because they do not believe in ghosts or subscribe to tarot cards, there are people, you just stay there for a minute, because soon when they're comfortable, they may be talking about like the powers of the mind, but like, like something like ESP related, so, or extrasensory related. So just hang in there, don't give up on them. But so I learned to sort of pick out when I was going to like have an experience. So that's um, why I believe that it's more like these this information is around you. It's around us, and if you perceive it, then I do believe in the concept of light and sound. And they also say, or books say, that that's where some of the realms are. Like if you go to the dream world, light and sound, light and sound pretty much. That's what I concluded. It's about light and sound. Um, light and sound, light and sound also I think can be separated to where it's just sound, vibrating, high frequency, then light. So I believe the way that I connect. Some people say they connect by a person's name, or birthday, or touch of a person, or their items, um, which that is cool. I've done that before, but sound, I've reduced it down to sound. Because, we've done, let me connect with the light. And then then whenever I noticed that whenever or spirit begins to speak, it vibrates. I said, that's like sound. And so I said, well, what about sound in itself? And sound seems to be how I connect. Like it's not that the name of a person's, or the name of a person, or their birthday, it's their voice. So in fact, I'm so confident in this that the receptionist is in my ears, or there's some exchange that happened. I always ask the client to state their name, because that's the way that I connect. And I said, I know the receptionist has, given me your name, but if you wouldn't mind stating your name again, that way I can connect to your energy. And I assure them I'm not doubting them. It's just that I always say, I love sound, and I believe that's the way I connect. And your name holds a lot of sound because you said it so many times. There's a lot of energy there. So that's why I like when people say their name, because, or when they do say their name, they've said it so many times. Through sound, they're sending powerful, like potent energy through the idea, the fact of saying their name. But if we're like just moving along and they just happen to be highly energetic, I could pick up on just them being, like, okay, I really have a question and I don't have so much time. That's fine with me. But I still will say my name. I say, yes, my name, I'm Donald. And, well, what's on your mind? And then eventually in the reading, I'll say, so we dived into the reading, and we seemed to have a good conversation going on, but I didn't quite catch her name. And then they'll like say, oh, I'm so sorry. Here's my name. So I know it's not the name how I connect. I believe it's the sound. I just follow the sound of the person, and then from so it's not just the sound of the person, but there's other vibrations stemming from that person who I'm reading. In fact, people sometimes they'll like, okay, so if I'm reading them here, they're connected to someone who they really like, and that someone who they really like might be connected to them, or the person other than themselves like the person they like and who's connected to them. And then they start asking about, different people, and they send me out there, or way out there. And I think that's a no-no for me. Because, people try things, because I mean, whenever, if I go out there, I can travel out there. It's just that people leave me out there and vulnerable, and then they might get mad. I get mad at whoever's going on, and they're like channeling it. And, so I'm like, okay, so I don't do that anymore. Rather, what I do is, I keep I close that off. We don't care who this person is branched off to, unless guide says specifically. And I trace it back to here. I gave him something very specific about what's going on here, though, and um, begin working and healing in this space. And anything here, um, I begin to speak into the metaphysical realm as well as with the reading at the same time to get that person disconnected so that we're dealing with just the two. So that's the way that I work. And usually when people are asking over here, it's a projection. So I've learned not to allow people to project me out into the world, and because then they project. And so rather than we need to, we center ourselves to deal with here, and whatever the information is. I'm not going to go into what kinds of information happens, but all kinds, all across the board. And every reading isn't okay. Every reading is beneficial, but if you're going to say but is every reading always good? Every reading is not always what the person wants, but the reading is always beneficial to the person, always 100%. So yeah, so that's the way that I think it works. Okay, I'm 33 minutes in. Okay, so let's keep going. um and then what happens is this: as people are beginning to, I think, open up. It's like they're opening up into their realm of thought. They're in their thoughts, and they're opening up, and they're wanting information to flow, and they're wanting to connect, and they're wanting to understand how they can have. Um, I think people are looking for something within themselves, and that's going to be where the shift happens for them. The shift is going to happen, but also with the changes happen. So that's what's going on here in this space, and that's the reason why they are asking themselves, well, why am I the lucky one? So they're asking that a lot, in the reading that we're asking. So why am I the lucky one? Why am I the one getting all of this attention at this time? And it's great explaining to them, that they can gravitate, or people can gravitate to them, and because they're sending out to the universe. So as they're interacting with me, I speak in a very specific way that allows for them to continue to attract the things they want from the partner or from relationships of all nature, and also just the connections that they get by these interactions, but also that their world can open up to opportunities. So their world can bring opportunities to them especially when we get them thinking in the right way. Because I've got clients who are, I mean, they're great people, great personalities, all walks of life, races, and they they are just in their own thoughts. A lot of the times they're in their thoughts. A lot of the times they feel good about what they're doing in life and the choices they're making. They're just like many of us. They're just in a space, and they're in this space. They're saying, "Okay, now that you know I'm in this space, what do I do? What do I do about it? What am I going to do about it?" Then, so what you gonna do? Yeah, what are you gonna do about it? So that's where a reading may come in, and well, we already talked about where I believe our my psychic the psychic answers come from, and they began to understand that it's not that universe is punishing them. It's not that they deserve this. It's not because of a past life. It's literally because of what's happening with them in the present, in the moment. That's why I like the ability to read for people and get an understanding of where they are in this lifetime and connect with that. I love that about my readings. I the fact that I can, when a person says, "Okay, I'm here, I'm present, I'm thinking," like, universe, if there's any message, anything you can tell me to help me in my situation, I'm listening now. I love the ability without hearing or receiving information. I can talk to a person in the present and know what's going on with them in the present. As needed, I can also interact with what's already happened. And we can translate to that as what is already happening. And then, of course, eventually getting to where, because they are going to ask, well, they will ask me, um, like, what's going to happen and how soon. So I can ask, like make a prediction, like what will happen. So we're reading some people say you read the past, present, and future. I would say I read the present, validate validate the present with the past, so that we can look towards the future. And then that's how I'd word it that way. I used to read like that. I used to literally, I would have like my poker cards, and I would do this way to go backwards. I would like bring the cards this way, and then if I wanted to, I call it progress. I would start going up, but I would always start from like the past, everything that's happened, because it gives me idea about the person who I'm working with in the present, and then I would start to talk about the future. Yeah. So that's how I used to read. My first style of reading, and they would just listen to me. They were adults. What I mean would just listen to me. Um, and I would have the poker cards spread all throughout, and um, and I could do this with anyone's poker deck. I was like, "You have a poker deck? I can do it. I can do that for you. Really, really, give me a poker deck." Like, so I'll be reading people's poker cards, and then yeah, because I didn't always like. Wouldn't At that time, I wasn't everywhere I go. I wasn't bringing my cards with me. And it happened a little further up when I said, you know what, now I need to get serious about this. I'm going to carry these poker cards, and it got holes at the end. Either end is like, wow, we can't use these to play with. You've got holes at the either end. And like, I don't know how that would matter. But so, I'm like, all of them have uh, holes at the end of them. And I also use the jokers. My jokers are actually, and I didn't even know what I was doing at the time. My jokers represented just as like triumphs or trumps, just as the higher arcana. Like I had the right idea, I had the right idea about card reading overall in general, without before I even knew even the proper names, that it was cartomancy I was practicing. And it's actually many people do it. It's even in many cultures around the world. So but I was right on track because I would use the two poker cards to represent higher arcana. So so you already know um, which duality I chose. I chose like God and devil, or I chose like good or bad, or like uh, big influence, little influence, or not necessarily like good, evil. It was just more like challenging, and then, you know, like times of like absolute open door opportunity, opportune moments. So yes, I did even, that's how I sorted out anything that the well, I refer to it, we call it the minor arcana, or the deck in itself, the poker deck in itself. Couldn't whatever areas that it couldn't explain, because that was more like the mundane world. So when I would read my poker cards, there was no spiritual elements to it, because I didn't have a concept yet of spirituality, um, like spiritualism, like arcanic symbols, or right. I understood like life stuff. So every card that I in the deck would represent a very specific scenario in something in real life. But I did understand emotion, like hearts, like family. So in the suits of that would have been the suits of the hearts, would represent the elements, but very specific scenarios. Each card leading up to, from the of hearts to the king of hearts, and the same with the clubs. And so the my okay, so the when I started out, my classifications that I created were, obviously the hearts were going to be like family and things like that, things people care about. And the clubs were like things that people wanted, things that people like really liked, and had ideas about, maybe going out someplace and meeting somebody new. It was something like that, like startups and beginnings. The diamonds, clearly money. Everything monetary. And then the swords were that when I would read the swords, that'd be more a little bit more serious. So that was more like one asserting themselves, taking action, rules sometimes needing to be broken, but no cutting corners, that kind of thing. So that was the way that I classified so I had the right idea, which that's what we do with the minor arcana. The minor arcana will represent the microcosms, or what's going on in the mundane world. And then with it would have been the jacks, right? What is it called? Okay, the jacks of the joker, either one. The jacks of the joker would have, you get two of them, for me, would have represent like the polarities and dualities that would correspond with um, a challenge against you, or you having the challenges, that you can bring, that get you ultimately what you want to need. So that was the way that when I first began, how my classifications, which then, if I'm thinking like that, it turns out that's exactly how the traditional tarot works. But except one thing, for you all in your book is going to say 22. There's actually 23, and there will be 24 eventually. But of higher arcana. So there's 20. We'll just say for knowledge sake, 22 arcana. But I have actually, here it is, right here. Actually, I've added a trump card to represent my 23 uh, higher arcana. Also, the 13th sign and all that is included in this one. And so, yeah, so there's So there's like 20 more triumph cards that I needed to study. I already had a concept of two. Well, heck, because I don't know which either of these two, the jacks are going to represent in that system of Hierophant. I had to study all 22. Well, then all 78 of the cards. So so that's how I began and where my wisdom, my knowledge comes from, and how it was. So when I was ready to pick up the tarot cards to begin reading the tarot, it was quite simple for me. It was quite simple. It was easy for me to just pick up pretty quickly. So that's how I picked up, like, very fast. And I began the journey towards, like, I can now make this into my reality. I can make this happen. And I can now work through the symbols. And that's where, because working through these symbols for me, it was like I was getting to the understanding that I can, like discover the puzzle. I can connect with a puzzle. So that's where I believe what so far as like where this gift is coming from. Now, little did I knew that I was drawing knowledge, information. I was trying to figure out, well, what kind of psychic ability do I have, or what am I practicing here? Whether it was the visual, so I would refer to it as clairvoyant, but I would say I get like information and knowledge. I don't know what it's called, but it's called claircognizant. So yeah, so I was working and building up my claircognizant abilities. So that's what I was doing. So now today, I would say my psychic ability. So instead of putting clairvoyant, but I am going to check the box though. I do check the box for all the clairsentient, but I say usually mainstream doesn't have that word. They don't have like claircognizant added yet. They don't have a ficus added yet. So I just fill it in. Like when they say other, I put other and I say, then I'll say explain and I say I'm claircognizant. And that means I get knowledge from no research. And the more that, well, and also I've been working with this ability for a while. So the more, I guess, infatuated I become with the situation, the more claircognizant information that comes through. So, and I also, my claircognizant ability tell me where to research. It doesn't just tell me information, but it tells me where to go look it up, where to find it to support my claircognizant ability. Then once I do, like it'll have me look for unrelated information to tell a bigger story. And that's where the other gift I love, or aspect of part of my gift, is the puzzle solving. So I start to piece it together like puzzle or esoteric symbols, and then I like to share them with people on whichever the live I'm on at the time. So, and now I'm in this space of, my YouTube is getting better. My TikTok is definitely better. I have more options now. Now a TikTok seller, and that which means translation. I put now a space to sell my books. So now my aura is saying we've got to write books now. We're ready to write our book. I've already started. I've already opened up all of my software. Oh man, I gotta go.